sorpresa. Αν ήταν Ryan, πλήρωνε CPR.
Voor mij was dat goed.
En leggen nu ook.
Ja, in die andere zaal dan maakt er ook next one up.
Maar dat is ook helemaal niks.
Maar bij de badkamer zit hier al
Ja, ik ken die ook.
Έχω μάθει στη μέση κάτι νόμιζα λέει και λες και έχει πλάκα γιατί δεν θα μας πει φέρνεις.
Don't laten zien, zoals
misschien even kijken. Is het vak ernaast of is het? Als dat een koud werk is, dan niet. De server is dat niet zo
So since you are here, that it was not too boring, so you came in here. Anyway, we were just in the middle of this game, and we had already arrived at the conclusion that we can likely ignore two players and give them a 0, and we should give to other players something. And one suggestion was that we give those guys less than we get, but we didn't decide which are the right sums for this. Maybe there are other suggestions, either specific on sums or different than giving them less than we get. Remember this? You want to survive, you want to stay on board. You don't want to be overthrown. You need to be rational on this. I mean, of course, you want to maximize your profit if possible, but maybe you guys have another partition to offer? Okay. You know what, I mean, let's do it systematically together. I agree that, as I said before, two guys can get nothing and we're fine, and two other guys should get something, otherwise they will vote against us and this will not be very good for us. So taking the 100 is definitely not a good idea. Even taking 99 is bad because at least one guy will be not satisfied. Taking 98 can possibly be okay. I'll take 98 and give 1 and 1 to two others. Sounds good to me. Do you think I'll be overthrown with this?
Sure.
Okay, I think so too. So maybe I should give those guys a little more than just 1. Anyway, let's go. Let's go from the end. Do the backward induction and see what should be here. Yes, please.
Sorry, because I was not here in the first part. What happens if you are overthrown?
You die.
Yes, but you die, but what
and the other guy, if it's A, which was overthrown, B, which is the next senior guy, would propose, and the voting would go on again.
Okay.
And if he wins the vote, it's implemented. If he does not, he's overthrown away again.
Okay, and everyone has, like, all of them are senior. There's a level of seniority amongst
A, B, C, D, E is the order of seniority, yes.
Okay.
And first A proposes, then if overthrown, B proposes, and so on. Voting is equal vote except for a tie where the senior guy has a cast.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Okay, so let's start from the end. Suppose we have E alone, he will get 100, but E will never be alone, and this can easily be seen because if we have a D and E, whatever proposal D makes, E can vote against and it wouldn't help because there would be a tie and D would have the casting vote. So D can offer whatever he wants to E and it will be fine. So it will, essentially it means that D would offer nothing to E if they are the only guys left. Okay? Agree? Just D and E left, all of the others are ate by the sharks. D would offer nothing to E and get 100. Simple, because of the casting vote. A tie is actually in favor of the senior guy. Okay, so we know that D and E would be 100 to D and 0 to E. Suppose we have C, D and E, because C was not yet overthrown. So C needs to get a majority. A majority is C itself, and or either D or E. So he needs to convince one of the guys to vote for him. He can offer 1 to E, because E otherwise gets 0. So E would be happy with 1 because it's better than 0. So actually, C can offer 1 to E, 0 to D, and 99 for himself or herself. Okay? So we know that 9901 would be good, and it would not be overthrown because the vote would be for him. Okay, suppose B was not yet overthrown, and he knows that the offer of C would be 9101. So B needs to get just one more vote to convince to vote for him, because it would be a tie, and he would have the casting vote. So if this is the case, B should get someone happy. Who could get happy as a result of this? You had C, 99, no chance. So either D, which got nothing, which will get 1, or E, which got 1, which will get 2. So it makes more sense to offer 1 to D. It's the least expensive thing, because D would be happy, because otherwise he would get just 0. So C should offer 1 to D, and 0 to C and D. So B, this would be the offer of B. So again, B can get 99, 0 to C, 1 to D, and 0 to E, and the majority. Again, tie, but it's a majority. So suppose now A was not yet overthrown, and A knows that that's what's going to happen. It's either he is overthrown, or he can do something which would convince the other to vote. He needs 2 votes. Okay? He cannot give B the 99 that he's got before, so B would get 0. So he needs to convince either C or D or E to vote. In the offer beforehand, C and E got nothing, so he should offer them 1 to each. So if he just offered each one of them 1, they would vote for him, because otherwise they get 0. So he should offer 98 for himself, 0 to B, 1 to C, 0 to D, and 1 to E. So, as you said, we didn't say 98, but you said that the majority goes to A, some to C, and some to E, and we are fine. And as you've seen, it's 1 to C and 1 to E. It's more than we believed. Actually, I didn't even, before I analyzed this, I didn't even, today I knew it, but in the past I also thought, I should offer more than just 1 to each. But rationally speaking, there's no reason to offer more than 1 to each if you analyze it backwards. And this backward analysis is a very typical way of analyzing such protocols, also for auctions. Not the simple ones. The more complex ones are actually analyzed in such a way. In fact, multiple studies have looked at auctions in such a way, searching the space of strategies, in many cases backwards, not always. Sometimes also forward search, but tracking the whole path to understand what is the actual preferred action is something very common in such analysis. And here it was also fun, because we have those guys that could have been overthrown to the sea. Not that I want anyone to be killed, but for a game on a board, it's fine. Okay. Let's return specifically to auctions. So we have multiple different types of auctions, and the advantage of auctions and their usage in practice is that usually they allow you to prevent the bidders from lying. Not always, but usually in many cases, these are simple protocols. They're centralized. So if you are the owner of the auction, you can, from a central point, computationally, from a central point, you can actually run the whole process. And on the other hand, when you have multiple attributes, it's complex. It's exponentially complex. But if it's becoming partly cooperative in the sense that agents or players are colluding behind the scenes, and I've seen such cases in practice, I'll describe shortly. So collusion behind the scenes, or collusion in general, is the case where players cooperate against the auction. In fact, it's partly becoming a cooperative game, but it's against the rules. The rules are saying that you're not allowed to do that. Nevertheless, this is something which is difficult to enforce. I'll give you an example from an open cry, actually an English auction. Where I come from, there are cases where people are unable to pay their debts, and as a result, the authorities are taking some properties of theirs and auctioning those either items or real estate. And this is auctions, and from the money from the auction, the debt is paid. This is a process which is done in many countries, and it's a way to remove debts which people do not pay. Sometimes I actually dislike it because sometimes it's actually hurting the poor. But as long as it's not hurting the poor but others, just because they didn't pay, I'm happy, because if these guys do not pay, you take their property and you sell it and pay the debts, it's fine. I mean, when it hurts the poor, I'm a bit concerned about it, but otherwise, that's an auction, that's a process which is well known, it works well, it helps maximize the value of the item sold, because if you auction it, the one that wants it most and values the item most would pay more than others, and it would be the maximum values that you can likely get for the item, and therefore the ability of the of debt paying would be better off. So what's done there? I've been in actual such cases, not my property, fortunately, but I've seen such cases because I wanted to see how the things are done. So I went there, and it's completely an open cry in the sense that you see the item. If it's a small, if these are small items, you see the items for sale, like arts auction as well. But this is different because you have TV sets, computers, office equipment, and so on, which is there for sale. So each item is placed for sale, and people from the public are coming there and buying items based on the lists that they can see either online or on paper, and they see the lists and they know that there's a minimal bid on each item, and you can place your bid whenever you want. If you signed up at the beginning, you can place your bids as much as you would like to. And this is going on quite fast because it's auctioned, you should bid. They wait a few seconds for another bid and so on, and this is a fast process. It ends in a few minutes. One item is sold, they move to the next one, and so on. The whole day in this place is made up of auctions going on one after the other. Now, if it's done this way, it sounds something very simple, very efficient, and it's indeed fast and efficient. But what I have seen, which is against the rules of the auction, I've seen collusion. And in fact, collusion was possibly because there was no enforcement against it. Because what I've seen is this way. So the item is placed for sale. Someone is placing a bid. So you have in the crowd, among the bidders, you have maybe 10, 20, 30 people there. Sometimes more, depends on the item. And the auctioneer is saying who wants to raise the price. Suppose it's for 200 so far. And some guys are hushing the others. Do not raise the price. I want this for this price. I'll let you win the other item, which is the same. I would not bid for the other one if you would not raise your price right now. Now, this is not allowed. This is cooperation, or this is collusion, which is not allowed by the rules of an auction. You're not allowed to do that in particular in front of the whole audience, because it's kind of all of the buyers participating are playing against the auctioneer, cooperating on preventing things from being sold for a higher price. And as a result, the price which is set is lower than the price that people would otherwise pay. So I've seen this happening more than once, and in fact, when I was asking about it, it appears that there are professionals which are their work, or maybe extra work, is buying things at auctions, and they know one another. They go to auctions almost on a daily basis, and they always cooperate, or almost always cooperate, and partition the items between themselves even before the auction starts. And if someone is not, in their mind, misbehaving by trying to compete, they would actually not cooperate with this guy anymore, so he would need to pay higher prices in the future. So these guys are actually colluding all of the time, which affects the price, the closing price of those items, which affects those guys in debt. And this is something which is not allowed by law. So those auctions are saying in advance, you're not allowed to cooperate. And when you sign some form saying, I will not cooperate, or not collude with others. And this is done because strategically it makes sense for those buyers to do that, although this is against the rules. Now, in some auctions where it's done, enforcement actually punishes those that do it, and if they do it explicitly, it's visible. You can do that. You can actually expel them from the auction or from multiple auctions. You can fine them and so on. So you can actually enforce in an open auction of this type. You can actually enforce to some extent the rules, but collusion is done. Conceptually, collusion prevention is possible in multiple different auctions, but you need to apply something for preventing this collusion. Some auctions do not apply that, and as a result, the buyers cooperate in a negative way, that is collude. Some auctions can actually favor the auctioneer, so give the auctioneer an advantage, which is a disadvantage for the buyers, and this is also not desired, but it does happen. When we speak of auctions, actually the auction itself may be indifferent or maybe the same protocol, but the behaviors of buyers within may be affected by the value, the way in which the value is attributed to the item sold. So value may be a private value or a common value or a correlated value, where a private value means that my decision on the value depends only on my private information and understanding of how much this value, this item is valuable for me. In many cases, there is a common value. There is a societal or market agreement on what is the agreed upon value of some item. For example, in many countries, not all, but where I come from, the price of 1 liter of milk, in a boxed milk, is known. Everyone knows what's the price. It would be such and such, not too much. And if someone is trying to sell it for more than that, no one would buy because it's not a fair price for it. But many items are not this way. They don't have a common value, but they do have some, in many cases, a correlated value in the sense that it has some part which is known and some part which is private. And this combination of correlation between the two is affecting the price you're willing to pay. So, for example, if you buy say a computer, a desktop computer, not a laptop and not a tablet, you would know that it would maybe cost between $100 and $1,000. But if someone would ask you for $10,000, you know that it's something it cannot, it doesn't make any sense. If it's for $5, something is too suspicious about that. Okay? So you know the range which is acceptable, and some of the things are affected by your willingness to pay and your needs and so on. So you have some parts which are fixed by the common value and some parts which are based on your preferences. And and this is a common case. The fact that you have this valuation which depends on others to some extent, and in fact on the valuation of others. Some common values are usually related to the fact that others value it in some way and not in another way. This fact is useful for auctions and actually has an effect on the selection of an auction protocol. Not on the design of actually also on the design. Some protocols were invented just because the inventors knew that bidders have those valuations which depends on others. So, for example, if you are at an English auction and you see that the price is going up, you may be convinced that maybe the price should be higher than you initially thought it should be. You may know the market value, which would be 100. The auction is currently at 50. You believe the item should be at most sold in 60, but then the auction goes to 70 and 80 and say, okay, it's still less than market value, but it's not 60 or 50 as I thought, it's more than that. And you may be convinced that 80 is reasonable because others are willing to pay it. Now, the fact that others are willing to pay it does not mean that it's really reasonable, but you may be convinced nevertheless because you see what's going on in the auction. Okay? And then when you see it in more than one auction, you might be very much convinced that that's the case. So the value has an effect on the selection or on the design of an auction type. Let's look at specific auction protocol or auction types. So as I said before, the most widely used and widely known is the English protocol, which is also called first price open cry. First price because the winning is the first price, the winning bid is the first price, and open cry because it's open. In the past, it was actually open cry in the sense that people were actually shouting out their bids. Today you have it mostly online, but nevertheless it's open in the sense that everyone can participate, and everyone can actually see the current bids, and in some cases the history of bids, and therefore you know what's going on, which is good and bad. So the protocol is comprised of bidders which are free to place their bid and raise them. It ends where no more raises are placed. In some cases, there are some variations where there's a time limit. Once the time limit has arrived, it ends. So eventually, the highest bid wins. The player that placed that bid gets the item for the price which was placed. And the strategy of an agent is actually comprised from a series of bids. So these are the elements from which you comprise a strategy. This is mostly based on private value, but also on the estimation of what others, what are the valuations of others, and this can be based on seeing the past bids or seeing history of bids at the auction site and so on. The dominant strategy here is to bid just a small amount above the current highest bid. There's nothing better than that. If you're still lower than your valuation, do not go to your valuation. Go to the current bid plus the minimum delta that you can. Any other thing would be worse for you, because if you place 2 delta, maybe you could have bought it for 1 delta above the current price. If you buy it for more than your valuation, you actually lose because you don't value it that high. So this is the best that you can do here. When the values are correlated, it's possible for the auctioneer to actually increase the price either by a constant value or by some other step. But then usually it's common to allow, so the increase applies to all players, but then players can quit. Say, no, for such a price I'm not willing to buy, so they quit. This is a variation on the English auction where the auctioneer is actually raising the bid, and players just quit when they don't want to participate anymore. Actually, designers of such auctions say that this increases the price somewhat in some cases, so it has some preference. Other protocols, we have the first price seal sealed bid auction. The sealed bid auction is such that you place your bid. It's sealed. It's usually in if you would like in an envelope in the past card. You can also have it online. So you submit your bid. You have a one-shot submission of your bid, and you don't know what the others do. And eventually, when the time arrives, the auctioneer opens the envelopes, compare the bids, and the best one is selected, and the highest is selected, and the guy will pay that amount. And there's no demand strategy here, in fact. But of course, it's preferred to bid a bit less than your true value, because your true value is no profit at all. You pay exactly as much as it's worth for you. If you bid a bit less than that, you make some profit, because if you buy for less than your actual value. But if you do much more than your actual value, then you might be missing the deal, and therefore you actually lose more than your profit. So although there's no dominant strategy here, there is a Nash, which in some cases can be computed, or mixed Nash or Nash. Then this Nash is based on how much less than your true valuation you place as a bid. If you know the distribution of values, you can compute that. Actually, always, if you know the distribution, you can compute that. In some cases, it's rather easy. For example, if you have a uniform distribution of valuations, you can just compute this. Your bid should be your true valuation times n minus 1 divided by n, which is n is the number of participants. Of course, in many cases, you don't even know the number of participants, so you cannot compute it. But if you do know n, and you do know the distribution, you can compute. In practice, typically you don't know n, and you don't know the distribution, so you can't compute the Nash. So what do? Take your true value, do a little less than that. How much a little? A little. I don't have any specific number or statement on this. Okay. Other auctions. The Dutch auction. Actually, the Japanese auction is quite similar to that, so I'll only touch on the Dutch auction. It refers also to the Japanese auction, which is very similar. The idea is that it's a descending auction. You start from a very high price, and you lower the price gradually. The auctioneer is the guy that lowers the price. No, actually, it depends. You have two variations. The initial variation was for the bidders to lower the price. There is a variation where the auctioneer lowers the price. The result is the same, but suppose now the bidders lower the price, they start from a high price, or actually sometimes the seller set high price, bidders auctioneers offer, so the bidder offer low, or the auctioneer lowers this. And in similarity to the variation of the English auction, the players may either, it depends on the variation, either quit, or they may say, I buy for the current price. Now, just let's re-explain it. So you have, suppose you have this problem solved now, and the auctioneer is saying, this is for 100 euro. The one who says, yes, it's too high. And now you say, okay, 90, 80, 70, 60. Now someone is very thirsty and willing to pay much for the water. At 50 says, I'll buy for 50. Now, if there's a single item, we're done. The auction is done, the guy pays the 50 and gets the model. But actually, the Dutch auction is commonly used for things which are not a single item. You have multiple items of the same type, not multiple different items, multiple items of the same type. It was usually used for agriculture, for example, fresh fish, fresh vegetables, fresh flowers, which are known to be grown in the Netherlands. So fresh produce and fresh other things should be sold fast. And you have quantities. You cannot just sell every item separately. So you have the whole pile of boxes with fish that came from the ocean right now, and you need to sell everything immediately so it will be fresh. So the Dutch auction allows you to lower the price. The first guy for the 50 would say, okay, I buy for the 50 this box of fish. But then you continue, because you still have boxes over there. You said, okay, 40. So I said, I'll buy it for 40. 30. And other two guys said, we'll buy it for 30. Now, there are two ways to implement this. Because if one guy would pay 50 and another guy would pay 30, it seems very unfair. The common way in the past in which this was implemented was you raise your hand and say 50, you agree to 50, but it's not a commitment to pay 50, it's a commitment to pay the last price that will be closed in this auction. Okay? And the auctioneer and the buyers knew that, so it was okay, because it was not in advance, and the fact that you raise your hand was just me that you are the most eager one, but not the one that will pay more than others. And once everyone knows that, the decision of when you raise your hand depends on this. You know that when you raise your hand, you are not committing to 50. Okay? You're committing to something close to 50, but not necessarily 50. So it does mean that you are willing to pay 50 in case it will be necessary, but you know that usually it wouldn't be the case. So the auction stocks and home items are sold, and usually this is a very fast process. They come with a ship from the sea, in the ocean, and in a matter of minutes they sell everything, because they lower the price in some delta, which is reasonable, very fast, everything is sold and goes away. So this was used much for fish and for other fresh products of this type. And as I said, you can accelerate as much as you want. Apparently, the ending prices are quite similar, theoretically even the same as in the case of first price seal bid, but seal bid is something slow, you don't see what's going on. Here, people see what's going on, it's fast, and you see others, and you can, if there is a psychological effect here, it can help the auctioneer accelerate and get good prices. There are more auctions, actually, a whole variety. I think there can be, theoretically there are millions of types of auctions, but in practice there may be several dozens of different types of auctions, because this process was widely used across the globe in many cultures, and it was quite similar across cultures. For example, the Dutch and the Japanese auctions were evolving without one of them knowing about the other, but they are almost the same. And they were used for the same reason, for selling fresh produce or fresh fish. So there is an all-pay auction, which seems to somewhat irrational in a way, or not something which we would accept, but in this case, each bidder actually pays its bid to the auctioneer. You bid and you pay, regardless if you win or not. Everyone pays. There are several different types of this auction, and it's used actually in practice for the Olympic Games. It's actually this way. When you do political lobbying, you pay everyone, but you get only one of them to be elected and support your cause. R&D races between companies, everyone invests, but only one wins eventually. So in a way, it's similar. It's not an auction, but it's similar. There are, as I said, some variations. For example, there's the bidding fee or penny auction, which is actually something which is widely used in practice. So actually, auctioneers found this is a great way to make profit. Suppose you say you put on sale something very popular, like a new TV set, or maybe a new smart TV, which is just went on the market, and people know that it would cost them maybe €1,000 because it's very, very new, sophisticated, and expensive. So they wouldn't buy it for 1,000. But then this seller say, you can have it on auction. The closing prices would not be even close to 1,000. It would be maybe 200, 300, which is very attractive. But to participate, you need to pay €5. Now, many people would like to have this new TV set, which is almost guaranteed to be in the range of 200 to 300 euros, and just pay €5 for this, for participating. So you participate, pay €5. It's enough for the auctioneer to have 200 participants to pay for the 1,000, which is the market price of this item. So usually there will be many more than just 200 participants, and the auctioneer will get a very high profit by offering something for cheap. Some participants would actually win, but the auctioneer would win much more. And this all pay auction is perceived by some government as something which is very close to gambling, in fact, because you pay for kind of a lottery, and you also, it's not just a lottery, but it's similar to a lottery, and in some places it became illegal as a result, because gambling is not legal in some countries. It was also not perceived as a fair practice, because you take a lot from the people and you give them only little. You give one person a lot, but most of them get nothing. So all pay is something which is in some cases positive, in some cases negative. In fact, it was very common in Europe many years ago, I think a few centuries ago. It was common to do all pay auction for construction. So you want to have a construction project, build some houses. Many constructors are applying for this deal, and they pay for the application quite a lot. Actually, usually the payment was part of the value of the deal, and eventually most of them, but one didn't win the project, but they all paid. And this does make sense, because they mean that they do have a lot of loss every time they participate in such an auction. And what was, I understood from studying this a little more into depth, was that it was kind of a community of constructors which none of them could actually perform the whole job by themselves, or either because they didn't have the money or the other resources necessary. And the fact that they were competing in the auction was to decide which one would be the leader and maybe get a little more profit. And usually the one which was more eager got this, because the guy was willing to pay a little more. But all of the other paid, and actually some of them actually participated in this project by becoming partners, doing subcontracting and so on. And also over time, your eagerness changed, because if you didn't get to lead for many times, you became more eager, so you were willing to pay more, and then you became a leader again. So it was kind of a society of constructors which was actually over time changing the role of leaders and changing who is doing it, but over time it was averaging that everyone would have enough work and profit. So it was used in this case as well. Let's keep this example. There's also a well-known auction which was maybe initially surprising. It's called the Vickery auction, after its, I'm not sure, inventor, call it? Yes. It's a second prize sealed bid auction. What does it mean? So, as in other auctions, the bidder submits a bid. It can be either open or closed auction. Both types are known in the art and in practice as well. So, you submit a bid, you don't know the others if it's a closed case. And the highest bid wins as usual, but the winner does not pay her or his bid, but the second bid. So you bid for 200, the second was 180, you pay the 180. You would say, hey, doesn't make sense, because why should the auctioneer want this to happen? Actually, the auctioneer would get less than if the actual bid, because the auctioneer would be better off getting the 200 and not the 180, which is correct if the bid wouldn't have been affected by the fact that everyone knows that it's a second prize. Because if you know it's a second prize, your bid may be higher. In fact, theoretically, again, not in practice, but theoretically, the Vickery auction arrives at, on average, the same results as the English auction. And as the, maybe not in the English, but if it's the sealed case, it arrives at the same result as the sealed bid case. If it's an open Vickery auction, it arrives at the same results as the open English auction. So the fact that it's the second prize has some effects, but not on the closing price of the item sold. Surprisingly, but that's the case. So why do you need it at all? If it arrives at the same results, no benefit. So there is one benefit, which is likely the benefit of the auctioneer, but it's also the benefit of the bidders. The dominant strategy here is the strategy of bidding your true valuation, because you do not pay your true valuation, you pay less than that. Why is this dominant? So suppose you bid more than your true valuation and you win. And suppose that the second bid was also above your true valuation and you pay it. So you pay more than your true valuation. This is definitely not a good outcome of an auction for you. Suppose that instead that you bid less than your true valuation, and as a result you don't win. You could have actually bid for your true valuation and win, which was better for you than not winning. So in fact, by this contrast, you see that the best for you is to bid your true valuation. Of course, there are some exceptions to this, but in general, the case is true valuation is the best that you can do in such a case. Now, why is it good for you? Because having a true valuation is the simplest thing to do. You don't need to compute anything. Just know your true valuation, place it as a bid, and you're done. So in this sense, such a strategy is very, very simple, and it's the best that you can do anyway. So definitely it's easy for you as a bidder. Why is it good for the auctioneer? Because the auctioneer can benefit from knowing that the values placed, the bids placed are actually the true values. So it gives the auctioneer more understanding of whether the prices arrived at are good. Of course, the auctioneer would just get the second price, but he would know, or she would know, what was the best available. Now, this is useful for future cases because the guy can actually design either the same mechanism or other mechanism based on knowing what true valuations were. But on the other hand, disclosing your true valuation to others is something which is not always in your advantage, in your benefit. It can be something which bidders do not want to do. A very good example is the case where, suppose you are bidding for a complex project and you want to win the project, and once you won, you want to subcontract parts of the project to others. So your ability to negotiate with the others is limited given that they know what's your true valuation. It was exposed in the auction. Now the others know how much it's worth for you, and well, you cannot say it's worth for me just 100 if you bid for 200. You cannot say that so your claims in negotiation are limited. In general, victory auction is not difficult to implement. It's easy for the auctioneer to get true valuation. It's easy for the bidders to place bids because it's easy, no need to compute anything. But it has some risks for the bidders because they may not want to expose their true valuation. Okay, let's do an auction ourselves. Suppose I have, let's see if I have one. Okay, I have a €2 coin. That's good enough. I have a euro coin. This is a euro coin, and now I auction it. You can buy it. And you just need to make offers. The offers, you start from 5 cents, and you can increase by 5, 10 cents each time. But we have one rule which is different from the English auction, and it's similar in a way to the all pay. The 2 highest bids pay. Okay? But and the highest, of course, wins. The 2 highest bids pay. Anyone wants to start the auction with 5 cents? Okay, we have 5 cents. You want to put in?
Yes, 10 cents.
10 cents. Okay, 10 cents.
15 cents.
15 cents. Okay. 20. 20. Fine. 25? Okay. Any more? 30.
€1.
€1?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, €1 and we have...
You say 50 cents, so I got it.
Okay.
For 50 cents.
No,
You say the second highest.
Two highest.
Okay, and
Okay, so either she gets it for €1 and you pay me 30 cents, or someone wants to, do you want to take one?
110.
110, okay, we have 110 and 1.
Now you're selling for 210.
Okay, 110 and 1. You know, you now will need to pay €1 and you need just to pay 10 cents. So for you it's much better.
is it different? Now I got it.
Okay, you want to proceed? You need to pay €1.
For €1? It's okay. At least I lose nothing.
Okay, no,
You know, you lose.
Okay, I think we made the point here. Okay, so this auction protocol was on purpose planned to make me profit, but you see, initially when it was 5, 10, 15, and so on, already one of you was already losing. The one which was second was losing already. That's the reason that if you're losing, you need to raise, otherwise you lose for sure. And the other guy, which was first, was not losing because paying 30 cents for €1 is a good deal, of course. 25 or 20. But once, you had 20, you had 25, you lose 20. You had 25 and you had 30, you lose 25. And he makes 70 cents, which is good for him. As long as it's below €1, even below €1, someone is making profit, someone is losing. I'm likely above half €1 and starting to make profit. But the issue is that because at least two are participating, once two are participating, even 5 cents and 10 cents. Once two people are participating, someone is losing for sure. And not only this, the most rational behavior, once two of you are participating, is to continue forever. And for me to having a very large profit, of course, but because the one that does not add would lose a lot. And adding just 5 more cents would reduce your loss. So even when it was, you said €1, he could make 10 cents by saying, not making, actually, though it was not maybe rational for you to participate, but if you say you had €1 and you had 30 cents, you already, by the rules we had here, you already lose 30 cents. If you say €1 and 5 cents, you lose only 5 cents, as long as she does not continue, of course. So, rationally speaking, it was better for you to say 105 than staying with 30 cents. Yes, please.
What would happen if they were a tie at €1?
Tie? There's no tie.
Why?
You cannot have two bids the same.
Okay.
And so
So if you are at 90 cents, the next one has to be the 95 cents.
you can have 90 and then €1 if you would like to, but you cannot have two people saying €1.
Okay.
Can someone bid the next, if I say 115 and no one said 120? It's not.
So you,
Like could someone have the two highest bids?
possibly yes, but it doesn't make any sense because we pay both of them. Okay. So